All right, this is Annalisa Ventola, founder of Public Parapsychology, for our last session of the day. We have with us Ramsés D'León, who will talk about the Public Parapsychology Community Ideathon and Collaborative Sprint. From wishful thinking to climate action, he will be describing how the PPC Ideathon and Collaborative Sprint may help teams develop their projects and tap into a community of volunteers. Ramsés is a researcher, administrator, and educator in the field of parapsychology. He is the chief researcher of the Parapsychological Unit of Research, Dissemination, and Education, founding member of the Research Center of Sintergia and Consciousness, and he is the office manager of the Parapsychological Association. So without further ado, I will invite Ramsés to begin his presentation.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Annalisa. Okay, so happy to have you here, guys and gals. This is the last effort, so let's try to enjoy this last ride. Okay. So, first of all, after all these wonderful presentations, I know some people may be a little bit tired, but I want to remember attendees that this is just the first day of the whole event in that sense. Tomorrow, we'll be having the Ideathon, which has the main goal to get teams together and leave the event with defined team roles and a clear objective for the project's idea. You will be able to use the same access link or URL that you used to enter here tomorrow. That won't change, so don't worry about that. And on January 8th, we will have the collaborative sprint, on which I will elaborate more shortly in a future slide. So please stay with us a little bit more to give you a clear picture of what to expect next, and hopefully all of you will decide to participate in them. And before we start talking about tomorrow's event, I think some terms should be made clear to avoid confusion during the slides. From here onwards, you'll hear me talk about project leaders, volunteers, and teams. So here's what we mean by that. So a project leader is a volunteer who registered and submitted an idea in the Climate Action Project Leader registration form, which you can access if you scan that QR code, or you can find it in the events information. Volunteers are the general attendees of the Exploring Consciousness-Based Applications for Climate Action workshop who want to participate in a protocol or a project to combat climate change with consciousness, either short-term through January 8 or long-term for the duration of their selected project. A team, finally, is a group of at least 3, but no more than 14, volunteers who wish to assist in developing a protocol or project according to the project leader's idea. And we're still accepting ideas till midnight. So if the workshop's presentation inspired you to submit an idea, you can still submit them and participate tomorrow as a project leader. Then again, you can do it scanning this QR code, or at the end of the presentation, there will be a link in the chat. Now, as I mentioned before, the aim of tomorrow's event is just to end up with a clear team, a clear objective of the project or protocol, and the main roles of some of the team members. More on that on a future slide. But I want to explain the activities designed to present, analyze, and hopefully participate in all the project leaders' ideas. And the first activity is a speed network session, as we had one earlier today, which are one-on-one conversations to promote and discuss ideas and report between the volunteers and the project leaders. These are just 3 to 4 minute conversations, which should increase the report and promote the idea sharing for the rest of the event. After the speed networking activity, we'll start a session like today's presentation, and we will invite each project leader on stage to talk during just 5 minutes to present their ideas. Remember that at this point, the project leader just needs to present an idea. The Ideathon and January's collaborative sprint are designed to help teams answer and document the when, where, and how of those ideas. The objective is that the volunteers should have a general understanding of each project leader's idea to work after that. The next activity will require the volunteers to disperse themselves equally between the social lounge tables, which will be the same number of tables as submitted ideas from the project leaders. And with the volunteers equally dispersed along these tables, the project leaders will hop around each table for only 5 minutes to talk a little bit more and answer questions regarding the project's ideas. Feedback might lead to an evolution of the initial idea or to new ideas that might work along the same line of thought. Project leaders are invited to incorporate these new insights, but they are free to decide what might they want to incorporate or not in the final submission. In the next activity, tables will be renamed according to the project leader's idea, which they submitted in the registration form, and each project leader should sit at their assigned and respective table. Volunteers should spend 15 minutes in 2 different tables with a total of 30 minutes, which would be their top 2 options. So, as a volunteer, you want to understand the general idea of each of the ideas, but finally decide to just 2 of them, and then you want to sit for 15 minutes in every one of those 2 tables. That way, you can truly dive deeply in the idea, the possible methods, the plausibility, the implications, etc. of that particular idea. The objective of all these activities is for the volunteers to finally decide the idea in which they want to participate, and also it should be the one that they think they can offer the most value to. After this particular activity, a final decision should be made. A link to the project selection form will be made available, so volunteers define where they want to participate, in which idea. While on a break, the administrative team will quickly collect and process the volunteer decisions, and hopefully we'll have a quick overview of how the volunteers want to distribute amongst the presented ideas. After the break, we will share which project's ideas drew at least 2 volunteers to work with. Including the project leader, each team should have at least 3, but no more than 14, volunteers who wish to assist in developing a particular protocol or project according to the particular idea. With that concluded, the team will be officially formed, and stranded project leaders and volunteers will be invited to join another team. Please consider, as a project leader or as a volunteer, that the main goal is to humbly try to use our particular knowledge or set of abilities to a greater good in these projects. So we can't force anyone to participate in a project or a team that they didn't select it or they didn't want to participate on. But if a team has not enough quorum, we hope you could still find a way and the will to participate in another team, even if it wasn't the one you wanted to promote or the one that you have selected earlier. Finally, the teams will sit at their project's table and will work together to define 2 things. The main objective of the protocol, business idea, technical application, or such, and the 3 member roles required for the collaborative sprint activities on January 8th. It's worth noting that from here onwards, the project leaders will be just a regular member of the team, and he or she is not required to take one of these 3 team roles required. And what are those team roles? Each team member must define a manager, and the manager is the member responsible to follow up with the commitments made by each team member of the team. They should count with an ambassador who would be the responsible for the interaction with the public parapsychology community and other teams. That's part of the activities of the collaborative sprint. And a scribe. A scribe will be the member responsible for the documentation of the project or the protocol or the technical analysis. So after each team is formed, these team roles need to be met. They need to decide who and how they want to participate or how much they want to dwell into these particular roles. And then again, remember that the project leader doesn't need to be the manager, doesn't need to be the ambassador, doesn't need to be the scribe. I mean, he or she can do it if he or she wants it, but it's not a requirement in that sense. And with that, the event will be over, and we will meet again in January 8th. So also one point to mention here is that these activities and the development of these projects and protocols are not inclined to be worked on between tomorrow and January 8th. So we're not asking you to get time of your probably holidays, whatever non-denominational invernal holiday you want to practice or have, or the New Year's. But even so, the activities must be happening just in this day and in January 8th. That's not, and there's the only thing that we're asking you to work on in those particular days. Finally, or talking a little bit more about the January 8th collaborative sprint, we'll have a different set of activities, and the objective of this particular event is to end up with a complete scientific protocol, a business proposal, or a technical analysis. Basically, the baseline documentation required for the particular project. There's no need to work or communicate between again tomorrow and January 8th, but some contact exchange, some followings on social media, adding friends on Facebook or following on LinkedIn may be advice. That's all up to you. In any case, after the collaborative sprint is over and each team has a baseline document on how to proceed, the involvement of the public parapsychology community will come to an end. So we advise to use the group features in the website of public parapsychology as a hub for sharing information, references, and other stuff you need to manage your project. So there should probably be some questions at this moment, but we'll save it a little bit till the end. I want to talk a little bit about other part and that public parapsychology is being part of right now. Just give me 1 second. Okay. So, as Annalisa mentioned before in the first session, public parapsychology has registered for the X Prize, the Carbon Removal Challenge, funded by Elon Musk and the Musk Foundation, which has the objective of tackling humanity's greatest threat, that being climate change. The main objective is to challenge innovators to demonstrate the viability of durable, low-cost, scalable, and sustainable carbon removal solutions. As humanity needs a portfolio of carbon removal solutions that can reach a combined installed capacity of 2.5 gigatons of carbon dioxide removal per year by 2030, and to be on track to meet the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, goal of removing 10 gigatons per year by 2050. And if you were like me and you find it difficult to visualize how much is a gigaton or something, here's a video using the Central Park in New York as a reference. So that over there is a gigaton, one, and the idea is to collectively remove 2.5 by 2030 and 10 of these gigatons by 2050. So the projections regarding climate change may be in our favor, according to the IPCC, NASA, and other institutions and organizations. With the competition, within the competition, this X Prize competition, solutions in scope include the removal and sequestration of CO2 in a durable way through air, ocean, lands, rocks, or a mix of them. And out of scope are solutions that do not remove CO2, that do not sequester in a durable way, or that are not carbon negative, or cannot be demonstrated or measured. This part is an interesting point, because it may turn away some parapsychological efforts. But I had the opportunity to participate in another project within the X Prize platform, using consciousness-based data to predict COVID cases in the X Prize pandemic challenge. And the X Prize people and staff seem to be very open-minded to the proposal. At least that was the justification to kick us out of the competition. But we'll see how this goes. In all sense of what we have seen in the presentations until this moment, there's many ways on how psi-based faculties, consciousness-based applications may be measured in different ways. There surely will be many in which we can actually measure and demonstrate how it's being how the final system is being affected or not. And then again, the platform seems to be open to that type of approaches. And I wanted to present you a general overview of the objective and scope of this prize, as we hope that some of the teams formed tomorrow would want to participate in an entry for this challenge. Public parapsychology is already registered. The registration for future teams is already closed. I think it closed like 4 weeks ago. But as a public parapsychology as a team can submit as many entries as we want. So that's an option. It's not a requirement whatsoever, but an option available for teams. We can discuss more about that after tomorrow if any team is interested, but we wanted to share it with you. So you have an additional option more than just developing the project on your own. So I don't know about you, but there's some evident and well-fundamented sense of grim and gloom regarding climate change, both in the news and in some of the presentations in this workshop, but without losing sight of the timely needed response. There's also hope on how many organizations and government-funded projects are jumping on board on this effort to find an equilibrium so we don't destroy the planet, but also we don't get wiped out in backlash. Efforts in Germany and the Ludwig Maximilians University in Munich, funded by the Federal Ministry of Education. Some other newly created nonprofits with good ideas and fundings are also emerging. And even the U.S. Department of Energy is investing $3.5 billion US dollars on this endeavor for infrastructure and project developments. Also, Marcos, you mentioned earlier as how much of technology may have a carbon-based footprint, that a negative footprint. But it's also nice to see that companies like Shopify, Stripe, Microsoft, Apple, Mitsubishi, to mention a few, are investing in ways to go greener with technologies focused on negative carbon emissions and low carbon processes to help in their process manufacturing. So I went a little bit more quicker than I wanted for this presentation, but I think it's a good time considering how much hours we have been here. So I want to close with this. That's the QR code for the project leader registration form because we need more ideas. But most of the main objective of this workshop was to analyze different perspectives of how to use consciousness-based practices in climate change. So can we use consciousness to grow algae quicker, for example? Can we develop an app about meditation and create a network around it to focus on CO2 removal? Can we work with shamans and remote viewers to obtain information in what or what not to do regarding climate change? Can we use psychokinesis to make the sequestration process to lock the carbon dioxide within the soil, which is needed? Many of the presentations today have talked about this or similar questions and different proposals. And many might think that as someone is already working on it, your help is not needed. But scientists have limited funds and reach and resources, and hands are needed. Are you a social media manager that can help reach to a wider audience? Are you an artist which may know channels or influencers that may want to cover these ideas? Are you an entrepreneur who knows how to raise money and sell ideas? Science is not enough to solve this problem. Psychic skills are not enough to solve this problem on their own. We need everyone's help. And not people from their couch saying, yes, this needs to be done. But we need actual volunteers who want to come forward, who wants to invest their time and their resources and their efforts, and that wants to get their hands dirty. The title of this talk goes along with this phrase that a goal without a plan is just a wish. And we can just wish to make climate change go away. And we may discuss different approaches to address climate change and make prototypes. But if we don't really join together to combat it, we're just daydreaming. That's why I invite you again to submit your ideas and commit part of your next year to tackle this problem. Because it's the only planet we have. I really hope to see you all tomorrow and bring your friends. We need all the help that we can get. So thanks a lot for your time. And I hope to see you tomorrow.
Wow. Ramsés, thank you for reminding us of what the climate action portion of this event means. We are here to do research, not just as a noun, but as a verb, and not just, climate change, but climate action. So I really appreciate how you laid things out for us. I'm going to ask you, so I don't see any questions yet in the Q&A, but I'm going to ask you some questions that maybe people might be thinking about.
Sure.
For instance, this has been a long day, been about 8-9 hours. How long is the Ideathon tomorrow?
I think it's not that long, not as long as today, but it's around 4 hours, a little bit less.
I think it's even less than that. I believe at 11:30 we start with the speed networking, and then the event itself is from like 12 to 2:45 or something like that. So it is, and that's with breaks, so it's pretty short and
Yeah,
sweet.
the main event is around I think 2.45 hours.
Mm-hmm. And if for some reason somebody wants to do a project but is not available tomorrow, is it still possible for them to participate in the sprint on January 8th?
Yeah, I mean, the one of the main requirements for the collaborative sprint would be that the teams have at least 3 members, because we need the manager, the ambassador, and the scribe. But if they can have a team assembled by that date with those 3 roles, they just need to register in the registration forms that will be found shortly within the Public Parapsychology Facebook page, and also the Public Parapsychology website.
Great. So you can form a team on your own and still participate on January 8th. Now, we had the purpose of today's workshop was really to educate and to inform, but also to inspire. And these videos, I mean, they're already out, right? They've been recorded. They're on Facebook and on YouTube already. And remind me to drop a link to our new YouTube channel, so people can potentially watch these videos and still come together and participate. So that's pretty exciting. But we really want to see everybody tomorrow. And I know we still got about 17 people here, and we have, what, 3 project leaders that have come forward so far. So that's probably going to be enough to do at least. And I will also say too, the applications, they are all very different. So Ramsés, you were talking about the X Prize, but we got 2 other ideas that have nothing to do with that. One having to do with subtle activism, and one having to do with weather control and psychokinetic permutation. And so, they're very vastly different projects, and that'll be very interesting, I think, to participate in.
Right. I mean, for the X Prize and the project we're proposing, using the prototype in Mark's presentation with the CO2 little box, very scientifically driven. But I mean, one of the aims, and correct me if I'm wrong, but public parapsychology wants to approach parapsychology to everyone, to citizen science, to artists, to people that really wants to be involved. So as I mentioned in the presentation, the objective is not to get scientific protocols. I mean, you can do that, but if it's a technical analysis for maybe an application, that's right. If you can do a business proposal for an endeavor and an entrepreneurial project, that's awesome. The other projects that were submitted are also very great in that sense. So there's a lot of range or opportunity for the participation of people.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we had talked about how the collaborative sprint might look, and I know those details are going to be coming out very soon. But we were looking at about a 5 or 6 hour event on January 8th, right?
Right. It's also not as long as this one. It's a little bit longer than tomorrow's, but yeah, it's a little bit around between 5 and 6. And then I want to remember people that the only effort and work to be submitted is during the actual events. So we won't be asking people to work on Christmas or New Year's Eve, whatever.
Right. This is we did this on purpose. A lot of us are volunteers, so it's funny. I did get some criticism about the dates we chose, but the reality is we all have day jobs, and so kind of the end of the holiday season, or the beginning of it and the end, is kind of the place that works for us and all the people who are volunteering their time. We have no expectations for you to work on this between Sunday or Saturday and January 8th. We really want you to enjoy your holiday, but it is nice to get that team together and know that you have that together, and then be ready to go after the holidays. So that's kind of the idea here.
Yeah, and I mean, to have the start of the year a new proposal. I mean, you can that's a good New Year's wish. You can start the 8th of January. You have a full year ahead of yourselves with a complete protocol or business proposal that you can develop, and a team to work with towards that goal.
Yeah, it's really a great way to start the year. Something that was striking me, I was on a break earlier today, and I was talking about in the beginning about the identifying the problem, and I used the IPCC report, and I used the AAAS response, and I mentioned, the AAAS is, the Parapsychological Association is an affiliate of the AAAS. Like, they've already given us a seat at the Workshop of Science. And we also know that you've participated in an X Prize competition before. And we know that the X Prize judges are also friendly to potential solutions to the problems that they are presenting. And so it is kind of interesting that, you know, it kind of goes, it's like it's a typical psychology thing that people will behave towards you the way that you teach them to. So I feel like as a field, if we just roll in and like, yeah, we're doing this, we're here, we're ready, and unapologetically, that you know, that this will have legs.
Yeah, I mean, many of our colleagues actually are very afraid that they still think that they need to demonstrate, say, faculties that, to my knowledge, I think that has been demonstrated very well, very documented meta-analysis and meta-analysis. And but we need to find ways to do applications to this, or use it for applications. And if it's to make a better world, I don't see a better use of my time, at least.
Yeah, it's like we said, psi exists and it belongs to everyone.
Completely agree.
And quite a few of our speakers today, we didn't go on with the honorifics too much, but a lot of our presenters today do have university affiliations or are working full-time at laboratories. So this is not a far-fetched idea at all.
Yeah, no.
So I don't see any questions, so I guess our conversation must have covered it. I'm going to check the chat real quick just to be sure that we're clear. We have a few people saying see you tomorrow, so that's pretty exciting. So yeah, we'll be back here at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time for some speed networking, and then the Ideathon itself will launch at noon.
Excellent. So see you all
Again,
tomorrow, guys, and maybe the social launch for a little bit. We can link it a little bit today.
Yeah, so we're going to end the session, but I know that you and I will stick around for a while and hopefully have a few more connections and a few more good conversations. All right, thank you everybody for joining us today. This has truly been epic, and I appreciate your participation and your donations and your enthusiasm. It's really been a great day. Thanks a lot,
Analisa, for organizing all of this and the opportunity. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure.